I wasn't looking for anything that night. Not really. It was late. The fire was already beginning to settle into embers, and I was just flipping through books I'd read 100 times before. You know that motion. Not reading, just remembering the feeling of reading. One of them, a worn-out green hardcover with no title on the spine, fell open too easily. And between two quiet, yellowed pages was a letter, folded twice, faded, tied gently with a thin red ribbon. It didn't belong to me, but somehow it felt like it did. I hesitated. It felt like opening someone's secret. But then again, maybe it was waiting to be opened by someone like me. And so I untied the ribbon. The paper was fragile, like breath. The ink slightly smudged. But the words, oh, the words, to the one who came after me. If you're reading this, it means time has done what it always does. It has moved forward without asking. And I am no longer here. But I loved someone once, and I wasn't brave enough to tell them everything. So maybe these words will find you instead. And I kept reading, my fingers trembling slightly, not because I was afraid, but because something in me knew this letter was about more than just the past. It continued. His name was Eli. He had hands that always looked like they had been building something. Rough, warm, real, and eyes that only ever looked like home. I met him in late October. We never called it love. We just stayed in the same places longer than we had to. I think we were both hiding from something, but what we found instead was each other. I paused. The room was quiet, except for the crackling fire and my own breath. It felt like someone had handed me a memory that didn't belong to me, and yet somehow had always lived inside me. I kept reading. He asked me once, "Do you believe in love letters?" And I laughed. I told him, no one writes those anymore. But now, here I am, writing one to someone I'll never meet. Maybe to him, maybe to you. Because love doesn't always need to be answered. Sometimes it just needs to be left behind, like footprints in fresh snow. The last paragraph was smudged, like tears had fallen across the ink. If you ever loved someone and lost them, or loved someone and never told them, then this letter is for you too. Be softer with yourself. Don't wait forever, and never underestimate what a quiet heart can carry. With all the love I never sent, M. I sat there, frozen, book in my lap, letter in hand, heart wide open. I don't know who M was. I don't know who Eli became. But that night, something in me let go, and something else quietly returned. Maybe the person who wrote this never got their ending, but they left behind a beginning for someone like me, or maybe for you. And since then, I've kept that letter folded in the back of the book, still tied with the red ribbon, just in case someone else comes looking for something they didn't know they needed. Just in case love letters still find their way home. But of course, I couldn't leave it alone. I told myself I wouldn't go looking. But that night, I pulled the book from the shelf again, as if the pages had something more to whisper. I turned the letter over. Nothing on the back. No date, no last name, just end. But inside the cover of the book, almost too faint to see, there was something written in pencil. A library name, long closed, and a name, Margaret Lane. I didn't sleep much after that. 2 days later, I found myself standing in front of an abandoned library at the edge of town. I hadn't planned it. I was just walking, and there it was. The name from the book's cover, etched in the worn stone. It looked like it hadn't been open in years. But the old wooden door gave a quiet creak when I leaned on it, like a sigh. Inside, the air was dry and still. Books lined the walls, silent and sleepy. And somewhere deep in the back corner, a small wooden desk sat beneath a dusty skylight. That's where I found it. Another book, not the same as mine, but same ribbon, same fold, same delicate handwriting tucked between the pages. Another letter, also signed M. I saw him again today, just in passing, but he smiled. That kind of smile that lives in your bones for hours after. I don't think I'm meant to keep him, but somehow I know he was meant to find me, even if just for a season. Is it strange to say I'm grateful, even for something unfinished? I stood there for a long time, reading, rereading, feeling like I had stepped into someone else's private cathedral, a temple made of paper, time, and aching honesty. And then I noticed something else. There were more books on the shelf. 4 more, each with a ribbon, each with a letter inside. Over the next few weeks, I returned again and again, always just before sunset, always in silence. And I began to piece something together. Margaret M. hadn't written these to be answered. She had written them as a way to survive. Letters not for mailing, but for releasing. Each one was like a conversation she never got to have, with Eli, with herself, with the years that passed without permission. Some were soft, some were angry, some were tired in a way only the soul can be tired. One of the letters was especially quiet. It was short, barely a paragraph. There's a kind of grief that never raises its voice. It just sits beside you in silence, day after day, until one morning you realize you're breathing again. Something in me broke open that day. I realized I had my own unwritten letters, words I never said, goodbyes I never gave, feelings I folded down into the corners of my days, pretending they no longer lived there. So that night, I lit a candle, and I wrote. To the one I still dream about, even though I pretend I've forgotten you. To the version of myself I left behind during that one awful year. To the friend I never apologized to. To the girl I was at 17 when I stopped believing I was enough. I wrote them all. Slowly, one by one, I tied them with ribbon, and I placed them in old books I'd read 100 times before. And then I left those books in quiet places, in a bus stop bench, in a cafe near the window, in the waiting room of the clinic I used to dread going to, in the corner of the bookstore where no one goes anymore. I never signed them, I just wrote, "If you found this, then maybe it was meant for you." And now, I wonder if someone, somewhere, is sitting by their fire, turning pages in a book they weren't really reading, and finding, folded between the chapters, a voice they didn't know they needed. Maybe yours, maybe mine, maybe Margaret's. Because some love letters are not written to get an answer. Some are written just to say, "You are not alone. You mattered, even if they never said it. You were loved, even if it ended. And that is enough. That is always enough." So if you're still listening, maybe tonight is the night you write one too. Not to send, not to fix anything, just to let something inside you finally exhale. A letter of love to the one who left, to the one who stayed too long, to the version of yourself who made it through the dark without applause. Tie it with a ribbon and hide it in a book. The right hands will find it. They always do.